There is a theory that has been growing in the church, the theory about the 6,000 years of Earth. What do you have to say about that?
Well, let me put it to you this way. The pioneers of this church all believed in that theory. 6,000 years of sin, 1,000 years of millennium. And then, of course, science put the cat amongst the pigeons by saying everything is millions and millions and millions of years old, therefore that is irrational. And the historic people said, no, history has been going on for tens of thousands of years. And they will quote Chinese history and Egyptian history and all of these issues. Well, firstly, you cannot date anything because every date is based on presuppositions. When you're doing radiometric dating, you are supposing that the elements that went from one form to another form, from a parent form to a daughter form, were in the same relationship originally. So let's say you're doing uranium-lead dating, then you have to say, we analyze the ratio of uranium and lead in the rock, then you have to make the assumption that in the beginning there was only uranium and no lead, which is an irrational assumption because all the other elements are there. Why shouldn't lead also have been there? And if lead was there in the beginning, then your dating is wrong. So it's based on a presupposition which is not scientifically tenable. For example, let me give you a modern example. If lava comes out of a volcano, the elements for radiometric dating should be at 0. So when it comes out, the clock is set to 0. Then you start ticking and you start analyzing, but it's not so. The rock that comes out can be millions of years old if you date it already. So the clock is useless. So in terms of how old it is scientifically, it's relative to your presupposition. So whether it's young or whether it is old, nobody can prove their paradigm. So it might as well be young as it might as well be old. So if you believe in the Bible, it can be young, and science can't prove you wrong. Now when it comes to the other bits of science, archaeology has shown that our whole dating system was wrong. Whereas in the past we thought Egyptian history went back 10, 15, 20,000 years, today we know 3,000 to 4,000 years is max. So the more we know, the shorter the time periods are becoming. In the past they had kings and they put them all one after the other in their reigning period, whereas now we know that many of them reigned collectively. So the time just shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, and the more we know, the time is shrinking. So historically, we cannot say that the Earth is necessarily older than 6,000 years. So I do not have a problem either way. So is it young? In my opinion, it is young. And if you just take at modern history, if we're here for millions and millions of years and the growth rate of humanity is such, even at the present growth rate, that starting with 2 people after 1,200 years, you should have more than the present day population. Where are all the people? Why are all these continents like North America and all these others, why have they just been occupied for a few hundred years? Why not millions of years? It makes no sense. So I have no problem with the young age for the Earth. And if you look at the theory of the 6,000, as I said, the pioneers all believed that it was so. And when would the 6,000 be up? Well, that depends on where you start reckoning. If you take Ussher's chronology of the Bible, then you would get to about 6,000 years for the Earth today. If you take Christ, who came between the 2 economies, and you take the time periods from Adam to Noah, or from Adam to Abraham, from Abraham to Jesus, from Jesus to our time, then they're all divided up in roughly 2,000 year periods. So Christ would have come at about the year 4,000. And the end could then come 2,000 years later than that. So we should be roughly there. When do you say Christ started? When do you start reckoning? From his birth? Do you start reckoning from his beginning of his ministry, when he was baptized, when he said the time is fulfilled? Do you start reckoning from the cross? Do you start reckoning from the time when the first economy of literal Israel went over to spiritual Israel? So there's lots of leeway to calculate this thing. But I would say we are pretty close to the 6,000 years. But I wouldn't set a date.
Mm-hmm.
And in any case, even if you were to set a date, you would have to say the time of the end will be cut short. Or you could say the Lord delays his coming. So I do not know when he will come.
Okay. All right. Talking about Jesus coming, what do you think is missing for him to come?
The fulfillment of prophecy. That's all that's missing. As soon as the mark of the beast is implemented, then the end times events will occur. Are they working towards implementing the mark of the beast? The answer is yes. If I look at the papal agenda, as we discussed earlier, they are busy implementing this agenda. So I believe the time is short rather than long. Some people believe that we have to all be perfect before Christ comes. And that would make the coming of Christ dependent upon human perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Is God subject to human perfection in order to fulfill his promises in the Bible? My supposition would be definitely not. He's God, he's sovereign. So why has he not come yet? Well, he is long-suffering, not wishing that anyone should perish. So where does that onus lie? On me or on him? It lies on him.
Mm-hmm.
I always prefer a theology where the events are subject to him and not subject to me.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Veith, for your time and all the explanations. Thank you, and may God continue to bless you in your ministry, and may God keep you faithful and continue to use you as an instrument in his hands.
Thank you very much. And if I can encourage anyone that's listening, time is very short. And who is the one that comes into a relationship with God and is taken up into heaven? Not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of the Father enters into the kingdom of heaven. So obedience is one thing and is not to be equated with fanaticism. Simple obedience and trust in God, and we will be able to survive the issues that are coming upon the world, because he has promised that he will not let his people perish. So be faithful, trust in him, do what is right with his help, and not one of you will be lost. Thank you.
And you, friend, may God continue to bless your life, that you may be ready for the coming of Jesus that will happen very soon. May God bless you.